Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 5, Chapter 14, Text 1. So text 1, we are going to read this again today. Sahovacha.
Uvacha
Sa esha dehatma maninam satvadi.
Sa esha deha atmamaninam sattva adi
Guna vishesha vikalpita kushalako.
Guna vishesha vikalpita kushala kushala
Shala samavahara vinirmita.
Shala samavahara vinirmita
Vividha dehavali virviyoga.
Vividha deha avali bhiviyoga
Samyogadi anadi samsaranubhavasya.
Samyoga adi anadi samsara anubhavasya
Dvara bhutena shad indriya.
Dvara bhutena shat indriya
Vargena tasmid durga davavad asugame.
वर्गेण तस्मिन् दुर्ग उद्भवत् असुगमे
Dvani apatita ishwarasya.
ध्वनि आपतित ईश्वरस्य
Bhagavato Vishnur Vashavartinya.
भगवतो विष्णुर्वशवर्तिन्या
Mayaya jiva loko yam yatha.
मायया जीवलोको अयं यथा
Vaniksartho ritha paraswadeha.
वाणिक् स अर्थ परस देह
Nishpadita karmanubhavaha.
निष्पादित कर्म अनुभव
Shmashanavad ashivat mayam samsharatavayam.
शमशामवत् अशिव तमायां संसार अट्वयाम्
Gato nadayapi vifala.
ततो न अध आपि विफल
Bahu pratiyoge hastatapo manim.
बहु प्रतियोग इह तत्ताप उपशमनि
Hari Guru Charanaravinda.
हरि गुरु चरणारविंद
Madhukaranu padavim avarunde.
मधुकर अनुपदवीम अवरुंधे
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When King Parikshit asked Sukadev Goswami about the direct meaning of the material forest, Sukadev Goswami replied as follows: My dear king, a man belonging to the mercantile community, Vanik, is always interested in earning money. Sometimes he enters the forest to acquire some cheap commodities like wood and earth and sell them in the city at good prices. Similarly, the conditioned soul, being greedy, enters the material world for some material profit. Gradually, he enters the deepest part of the forest, not really knowing how to get out. Having entered the material world, the pure soul becomes conditioned by the material atmosphere, which is created by the external energy under the control of Lord Vishnu. Thus, the living entity comes under the control of the external energy, Devi Maya. Living independently and bewildered in the forest, he does not attain the association of devotees who are always engaged in the service of the Lord. Once in the bodily conception, He gets different types of bodies, one after the other, under the influence of material energy and impelled by the modes of material nature, sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. In this way, the conditioned soul goes sometimes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to the earthly planets, and sometimes to the lower planets and lower species. Thus, he suffers continuously due to different types of bodies. These sufferings and pains are sometimes mixed. Sometimes they are very severe, and sometimes they are not. These bodily conditions are acquired due to the conditioned soul's mental speculation. He uses his mind and five senses to acquire knowledge, and these bring about the different bodies and different conditions. Using the senses under the control of the external energy, Maya, the living entity suffers the miserable conditions of miserable existence. He is actually searching for relief, but he is generally baffled, although sometimes he is relieved after great difficulty. Struggling for existence in this way, he cannot get the shelter of pure devotees, who are like bumblebees engaged in loving service at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. The most important information in this verse is Hari Guru Charana Aravinda Madhukara Anupadavim. In this material world, the conditioned souls are baffled by their activities and sometimes they are relieved after great difficulty. On the whole, the conditioned soul is never happy. He simply struggles for existence. Actually, his only business is to accept the spiritual master, the Guru, and through him, he must accept the lotus feet of the Lord. This is explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. People are struggling for existence in the forests or cities of the material world, are not actually enjoying life. They are simply suffering different pains and pleasures, generally pains that are always inauspicious. So sometimes, or many times, we don't even know that we are suffering in this material world. What we are calling happiness, if we analyze, may not really be happiness. And it's just binding us here in the material world. Like how Prahlad Maharaj gives the example that the camel is chewing the thorns, but because the thorns are pricking his tongue and his tongue is bleeding and he's tasting his own blood, but he's thinking, oh, nice, nice, tastes so good, these thorns. So most of the time, we don't even realize how we are suffering. They try to gain release from these pains, but they cannot due to ignorance. For them, it is stated in the Vedas, Tat Vijnanartham Sagurum Eva Vikachet. When the living entity is lost in the forest of the material world, in the struggle for existence, his first business is to find a bona fide guru who is always engaged at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So that is the first business of every conditioned soul. Take shelter of a bona fide guru. After all, if he is at all eager to be relieved of the struggle for existence, he must find a bona fide guru and take instructions at his lotus feet. In this way, he can get out of the struggle. Because by following the instructions of the guru, one can come out of the material world. One can get liberation. Take shelter because the guru is always at the lotus feet of Krishna. So taking shelter of the lotus feet of Guru means taking shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. Since the material world is compared herein to a forest, it may be argued that in Kali Yuga, modern civilization is mainly situated in the cities. A great city, however, is like a great forest. Actually, city life is more dangerous than life in the forest. If one enters an unknown city without friend or shelter, living in that city is more difficult than living in a forest. There are many big cities all over the surface of the globe, and wherever one looks, he sees the struggle for existence going on 24 hours a day. People rush about in cars going 70 and 80 miles an hour, constantly coming and going, and this sets the scene of the great struggle for existence. So Srila Prabhupada is specifically speaking about America because people drive long distances, drive on the highway because they may be living outside the city. One has to rise early in the morning and travel in that car at breakneck speed. There's always the danger of an accident, and one has to take great care. In his automobile, the living entity is full of anxieties, and his struggle is not at all auspicious. Apart from human beings, other species like cats and dogs are also struggling very hard, day and night, for existence. Thus, the struggle for existence continues, and the conditioned soul changes from one position to another. So, we are struggling in this material world. We don't realize it. And we take up one body, we try to enjoy in that body, but time in that particular body is limited. Then we have to give it up and take up another body, and the struggle continues. So we may think, no, 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 only in this current body that I am right now, the struggle is there. But if I change my body to a higher body, to maybe a heavenly being, then there is no struggle for existence. But what we are trying to understand here, no matter which body we take in the material world, the struggle for existence continues. One may be in demigod body or in animal body. There is struggle for existence. That's the law of this material world. For a while, he is a child, but he has to become a boy. From a boy, he has to change into a youth, and from youth to manhood and old age. Finally, when the body is no longer workable, he has to accept a new body in a different species. Giving up the body is called death, and accepting another body is called birth. The human form is an opportunity to take shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, and through him, the Supreme Lord. This Krishna consciousness movement has been started to give an opportunity to all the members of human society who are misled by foolish leaders. No one can get out of this struggle for existence, which is full of miseries, without accepting a pure devotee of the Lord. The material attempt changes from one position to another, and no one actually gains relief from the struggle for existence. The only resort is the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, and through him, the lotus feet of the Lord. So the propaganda nowadays, of course, all over the world is, just be in this material world, enjoy as much as we can. There is no proper education given about spiritual life, but we are hearing now that the goal, the once we realize we are in this material world, we have to make plans to get out of here. And that is by taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and through him, the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Did anyone want to add anything or any comment?
So it's so very important that we have to take the shelter of a spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master, right? To
Yes, yes,
to get the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. I mean, to be at the lotus feet.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
So is it that we are under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada,
yes,
right?
yes. We ask him for shelter, yes.
Right? We can.
Yes, of course.
Mm.
Yes. But of course,
And
we
yet,
need a living guru also to connect us to any parampara. Srila
right,
Prabhupada, of course, in ISKCON, the system is Srila Prabhupada is the preeminent Shiksha Guru of everyone because
mm,
we are getting Shiksha from him.
Mm.
We are reading his books.
Mm.
And for Diksha, we approach the devotee who's doing the service as a spiritual master, and he connects us to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada connects us to the Guru Parampara. That's the system in ISKCON,
Okay.
that they accept us on behalf of Srila Prabhupada.
Okay. So that's for the initiation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But shelter, yes. We are all encouraged to take shelter. Anyone can take shelter of Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
So, go on to the next one. Yasyam Uhava ete sat indriya
Yasyam uhiva ete shatindriya
namana karmana dasyava evate.
naman karmana dasya va evate.
That okay, Neha, you sing then. I follow you.
No, please. I will follow you. No problem, please.
Hmm.
Tat you just have to remember that one, no? Tat yatha purushasya dhanam yat kinchata. Okay?
Yat okay, let's see. Yat yat tat yatha purushasya dhanam yat
Tat yatha
Tadyatha
purushasya
Purusasya
dhanam
Dhanam Yat
yatha
kinched dharmopaikam bahu
Kinchi
dharma
Dharmaupayikam
opikam.
Bhavi
Krichhradigatam sakshat parama
Prachadikatam Sakshat Parama
purusha aradhana lakshano yaso
Purusha
Purusha
Radhana
aradhana
Lakshano
lakshana yaso
Yuso
dharmastam tu samparaya udharanti
Dharmastam tu
dharmasvam tu
Samparaya
samaraya
Udharanti
udharanti
tadharmyam dhanam. How will this go? Tadharmyam dhanam
darshanam
Tattharmyam Dhanam
tam dharmam dharnam
darshana sparshana shravana svadana pragrahana
darshana sparshan
Darshana
shravana
Shravana
svadan avgrana.
Svadan
sankalpa vyavasaya
Sankalpya Vyavasaya
Vyavasaya
grahagram yopabhogena
Grahagram
grahagramya upabhogena
Vyopabhogena
kunat kunathasya jitatmano yatha sarthasya
Punaha
punathar
Tasya
arthe atmano
Jitatmano Yata
yathasthasya
Sastasya
vilumpanti.
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 In the forest of material existence, the uncontrolled senses are like plunderers. The conditioned soul may earn some money for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, but unfortunately, the uncontrolled senses plunder his money through sense gratification. The senses are plunderers because they make one spend his money unnecessarily for seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, desiring, and willing. In this way, the conditioned soul is obliged to gratify his senses. And thus, all his money is spent. This money is actually acquired for the execution of religious principles, but it is taken away by the plundering senses. Then think of that. Purva janmarjita vidya purva janmarjitam dhanam agre dhavati dhavati. By following the principles of the Varna Sharma Dharma, one attains a better position in the material world. One may be rich, learned, beautiful, or highborn. one who has all these assets should know that they're all meant for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, when a person is misguided, he misuses his high position for sense gratification. Therefore, the uncontrolled senses are considered plunderers. The good position one attains by executing religious principles is wasted as the plundering senses take it away. So, one gets a good position in the material world because one has performed some pious activities, some religious activities were performed, some pious things were done. And so then one is maybe beautiful or highborn or learned or rich or maybe all of them. But then what happens? One gets this high position, then one wants to enjoy the senses. So that's why the senses are called plunderers. So whatever good result one has collected, they are like kind of wasted on by the senses. By executing religious principles under the laws of Varnashrama Dharma, one is placed in a comfortable position. One may very easily use his assets for the further advancement of Krishna consciousness. One should understand that the wealth and opportunity one gets in the material world should not be squandered in sense gratification. They are meant for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. So then the choice is ours that we may get a good position, and then how do we use that position? What do we do with it? So Prabhupada is here pointing out that one should use it for advancement of Krishna consciousness. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore teaching people to control the mind and 5 knowledge acquiring senses by a definite process. One should practice a little austerity and not spend money on anything other than the regulative life of devotional service. The senses demand that one see beautiful things. Therefore, money should be spent for decorating the deity in the temple. Similarly, the tongue has to taste good food, which should be bought and offered to the deity. The nose can be utilized in smelling the flowers offered to the deity, and the hearing can be utilized by listening to the vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, the senses can be regulated and utilized to advance Krishna consciousness. Thus, a good position might not be spoiled by material sense gratification in the form of illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. So, what are the things Prabhupada is saying one could do over here?
Not to spend your money on unnecessary, for sense gratification.
Yeah. And instead, what are the ways, some ways that we could spend the money?
Spend on executing religious principles, like for that purpose. So like when you get food, you get good food, okay, offer it to the deity. Even money spent for decorating the deity in the temple, right?
And what
the
else?
flowers, the nose can be utilized in smelling the flowers that's been offered to Krishna, and hearing the vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra.
Yeah, so
Chanting.
these are some practical ways that Srila Prabhupada is saying, practically how we can engage the senses in Krishna's service.
So simple living, high thinking.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes, that's what he would say.
And
Yes, simple living, high thinking. So we start somewhere, we may not be able to do it all the time, but at least we begin somewhere. Something we do. Yeah. One spoils an opulent position in the material world by driving cars, spending time in nightclubs, or tasting abominable food in restaurants. In these ways, the plundering senses take away all the assets that the conditioned soul has acquired with great difficulty. So we sometimes may not realize that it is by good fortune that we have whatever we have. So, yeah, it is by good fortune, and we should engage it in Krishna's service. Athacha yatra kautumbika dara patyadayo. I'll say the whole thing. Namna karmana vrika.
Atacha yatra kautumbika darapatyadayo namna karmana vrika.
Srigala evani chattopi kardasya kutumbina orana kavad.
Shrigala evani chatopi kadarsh yasya kutumbina uran na kavat.
Samraksyamanam mishatopi haranti.
Samrakshamanam mishatopi haranti.
My dear king, family members in this material world go under the names of wife and children, but actually they behave like tigers and jackals. A herdsman tries to protect his sheep to the best of his ability, but the tigers and foxes take them away by force. Similarly, although a miserly man wants to guard his money very carefully, his family members take away all his assets forcefully, even though he is very vigilant. One Hindi poet has sung, दिन का दकीनी रात का भागिनी palak palak lahu kuse. During the daytime, the wife is compared to a witch, and at night, she's compared to a tigress. God.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Tiger is so.
All right. Any comments?
Are we like that?
Actually, it is because you always see that every time there is a problem, like we instigate. Sometimes na we tell, देखो तुम्हारे भाई ने तो इतना कर लिया, तुम तो कुछ भी नहीं करते. It is just the women who creates all the trouble. That's why. It's nothing to think bad about it because we are like that. You know, you just see. Sometimes to a friend also we'll say कि देख ये तो कितनी अच्छी करी है, अरे तेरी बेटी तो ऐसे हो गई. The man will never tell any friend of his or her that तुम्हारा बेटे. It's only the women who have these things because it is our nature. It's in our nature. मैं ही बोलूंगी कि अरे तेरी बेटी कुछ नहीं कर रही, इतनी बड़ी हो गई, उसमें अक्कल नहीं है, ये नहीं है. We are the fault finding person. Men are not. Always you have this experience in general. That's why we are the tigress. हम इसीलिए ऐसे ऐसे गंदे गंदे वर्ड्स होते हैं हमारे लिए.
Our
And
only
sucking the
business
blood
is
of the
sucking the
husband.
blood of us. I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading. The next line says sucking the blood of a husband both day and night.
Only business is sucking the blood of her husband both day and night. Now, why? Why it said that? During the day, there are household expenditures, and the money earned by the husband at the cost of his blood is taken away. Well, because she has to spend it, she has to run the house, so she needs money from the husband. Now, that's the reason the modern woman says, I will make my own money. I'm going to work by myself and I will contribute. But anyway, this is a traditional woman. So she's just asking more and more money. So, but all women may not be like that. Some women may be able to
Yeah,
understand their
exactly. They
husband's
say that the woman is a
limitation.
homemaker.
I'm sorry?
I mean, there's a saying that the woman is a homemaker who makes the house. I mean, who
Yeah,
runs the house properly. So,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The woman is needed. I mean, for
Yes.
if one is married, then the wife is needed, because then what's the use of a home otherwise? That's the saying is then the grihas. The wife has to be there because she is the one She's like the center that holds everything together. But here we are trying to understand. Sukadev Goswami is going and he's trying to explain to us another way, that the man is working hard day and night and his money is being spent to maintain the house. Mhm. So, but then again, as I said, all women may not be like that,
It's not
because
like
some
that. Yeah.
would be very, very cooperative. They would be very understanding. At night, due to sex pleasure, the husband discharges blood in the form of semen. In this way, he's bled by his wife both day and night, yet he's so crazy that he very carefully maintains her. Similarly, the children are also like tigers, jackals, and foxes. As tigers, jackals, and foxes take away lambs, despite the herdsman's vigilant protection. Children take away the father's money, although the father supervises the money himself. Thus, family members may be called wives and children, but actually they are plunderers. So, what's being said is that the man works so hard. He's working hard day and night to support our family. So that's what was the theme. That he does not need to work that hard. And
To satisfy the wife and the children.
I'm sorry,
To
huh?
satisfy
I'm
the
sorry.
wife and the children.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why he's working harder and harder so he can keep everyone happy. That's what is being said here.
Mm.
Yeah. Because if he's
But
just
there
by
are
himself,
times,
a man, it's not gonna bother
but there
much,
are times so when the husband is having a problem financially, the wife is always with the husband,
Oh yeah.
by his giving him back, I think support pillar, like with whatever
Yes.
income and we can run, we can do it, right? Even there are
Yes.
times, yes.
Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. That's why it said, right? Husband and wife is like one unit,
Mm,
They're supporting each other. How we read earlier in the story of Prithu Maharaj, I think. I
mm,
think it was in that one
yes.
that we were hearing how the husband and wife is one unit, they cooperate with each other.
Mm,
Yeah. So we are hearing a different light. Yeah.
mm,
Yatha hi anuvatsaram krishyamanam api adkada vijam kshetram.
यथा हि अनुवत्सरं कृष्यमाणम् अपि अदगत बीजं क्षेत्रम्
पुनरेवापनकाले गुल्म तृणविरोधिर्गह्वरम् इव.
पुनरेवावपने काले गुल्मः ऋणविरुद्धिर्गह्वरम् इव
भवति एवम् एव गृहश्रमः कर्मक्षेत्रं यस्मिन् हि.
भवति एवम् एव गृहाश्रम कर्मक्षेत्रं यस्मिन् हि
कर्माणि उत्सिदन्ति यत् अयं काम करण्ड एष आवसथः.
कर्माणि उत्सीदन्ति यत् अयं काम करण्ड एष आवसक्तः.
Every year, the plowman plows over his grain field, completely uprooting all weeds. Nonetheless, the seeds lie there, and not being completely burned, again come up with the plants sown in the field. Even after being plowed under, the weeds come up densely. Similarly, the Grahastha Ashram family life is a field of fruitive activity. Unless the desire to enjoy family life is completely burnt out, it grows up again and again. Even though camphor may be removed from a pot, the pot nonetheless retains the aroma of camphor. As long as the seeds of desire are not destroyed, fruitive activities are not destroyed. Unless one's desires are completely transferred to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, The desire for family life continues even after one has taken sannyas. Sometimes in our society ISKCON, a person out of sentiment may take sannyas, but because his desires are not burnt completely, he again takes to family life, even at the risk of losing his prestige and disgracing his good name. So that practically that happened in ISKCON after Prabhupada left the world. So there were many sannyasis, and even while he was here on the earth, there was sannyasis. They were young men actually, but they could not keep their sannyas vows, and then they married and they had a family. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. So that the desires are still there, unless one is completely the drid vrata, completely given up the desire for family life. These strong desires can be burnt out completely when one fully engages in the service of the Lord in devotional service. So only by devotional service. Tatra gato damsha mashaka sama asader manju manuje shalabha.
Tatra gato damsha mashaka sama pasader manuje shalabha.
Shakunta taskara mushakadibher uparudyamana bahi pranaha.
Shakunta taskara mushaka dibir uparudya mana bahi prana.
Kvachit parivartamanosmin adhavani avidya kama karma bher.
Kvachit parivartamanosmin advani avidya kama karma bhi.
Uparakta manasanupappanartham naralokam gandharva.
Uparakta manasanu naralokam gandharva.
Nagaram upappanam iti mithya drishtir anupashyati.
Nagaram upapanam iti mithya drishtir anupashyati.
Sometimes the conditioned soul in household life, being attached to material wealth and possessions, is disturbed by gadflies and mosquitoes, and sometimes locusts, birds of prey, and rats give him trouble. Nonetheless, he still wanders down the path of material existence. Due to ignorance, he becomes lusty and engages in fruitive activity. Because his mind is absorbed in these activities, he sees the material world as permanent. Although it is temporary, like a phantasmagoria, a house in the sky. The following song is sung by Narottam Das Thakur, Ahankare Matahana, Nitai Padapa Sariya, Asatyere Satya Karimani. Due to forgetting the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda and being puffed up by material possessions, wealth, and opulence, one thinks the false, temporary material world to be an actual fact. So, this is our position. We are thinking that this material world, which is temporary, is a fact. What is the false part of the material world? Hmm?
He thinks that it is permanent. It's reality. I mean, it is reality,
Yeah,
but but it's temporary.
that yeah, we are thinking that we are the body, and so we are thinking whatever bodily designation that is our true identity.
Okay.
So that identification that is false because actually we are all spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. This is the material disease. The living entity is eternal and blissful. But despite miserable material conditions, he thinks the material world to be real and factual due to his ignorance. So we are in ignorance, we are sleeping in the lap of Maya, and we are thinking that this whatever bodily designation is, that is our real identity. We have forgotten our spiritual identity. Tatra cha kvachit atapodaka nibhan vishayan upadhavati pana.
तत्र च क्वचित् आतपोदक निभान् विषयान् उपधावति पान
Bhojana vyavayadi vyasana lolupaha.
भोजन व्यवायादि व्यसन लोलुप.
Sometimes in this house, in the sky, Gandharvapura, the conditioned soul drinks, eats, and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of the senses, just as a deer chases a mirage in the desert. There are two worlds, the spiritual and the material. The material world is false like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, animals think they see water, but actually there is none. Similarly, those who are animalistic try to find peace within the desert of material life. So, mirage, what is our mirage here? We are thinking we'll find happiness here in this material world. The material world is a reflection. So, the real happiness is in the spiritual world because that's what is the reality. But we are not able to understand that. And we are continuously trying to find happiness here in the material world because we are thinking we are the body. We have forgotten that we are the spirit souls. It is repeatedly said in different shastras that there is no pleasure in this material world. Further, so we can see, we are reminded of it everywhere. Bhagavad Gita is saying, Bhagavatam is saying, all the shastras are saying that. But our attachment to this world is so strong. We have been here since a very, very long time. Like how when there is some dirt stain which is there for a very long time, it takes long to scrub it out. Needs some effort. If it's like new stain or new dust, not so settled, then it's easy. But when it's been there for a long time, so we've been here in the material world for a long time. So furthermore, even if we agree to live without pleasure, we are not allowed to do so. So one may say, fine, there is no pleasure in the material world. All right, I don't mind, but I still want to live here. But what happens? We have to change the body. That's the law of the material nature. Suppose someone may say, fine, I'm willing, whatever is my position. I don't want pleasure. I'm happy with whatever pleasure I'm getting. But we have to give up the body one day. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that the material world is not only full of miseries, dukhalayam, but also temporary, ashasvatam. Even if we want to live here amid miseries, material nature will not allow us to do so. It will oblige us to change bodies and enter another atmosphere full of miserable conditions. So that's the nature of the material world. So here Sukadev Goswami is, because Parikshit Maharaj is asking what was the allegory, what was Jar Bharat saying. So Parikshit Maharaj wanted a more clearer explanation of this. And so Sukadev Goswami is trying to explain to him about the living entity who's called as a traveler in this material world compared to a traveler in the forest. Yeah, so we are traveling through this material world. So this is what Sukadev Goswami is describing. Did you want to add anything more? Anyone? Okay, then we'll stop here today. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.